Superman number 21, written by Scott Lobdell, art by Kenneth Rocafort. So last issue, it was a whole big thing of Superman had Hector Hammond's brain inside of his head, and then Orion showed up and helped cast it out. And that was just a thing. This issue picks up totally separate plotline of Hive, and they have the queen of the Hive who's bathing in technoplasmic waste, and she's just basically looking at Hector Hammond on a thing saying oh god, I'm so hot for that. His brain, his psionic energy, so powerful, I need it. And this weird speechless drone guy comes up, and she's like, yes, go and get Hector Hammond, and then we will have the world to ourselves, and we will save it from itself. So then we see in Star Labs, one of the scientists is getting the breakdown on Hector Hammond, he was he all of a sudden was very active, and then all of a sudden wasn't. Now he's just kind of whatever. We don't know what's going on with him. And then one of the scientists' eyes start turning in golden color, and some hive markings show up on his head, and it's just oh god, you're one of them. And then all of a sudden he starts infecting the other members of Star Labs, and they're just okay, all of us now are going to get Hector Hammond out of here. We are going to get rid of the chaos that is individuality, and all shall be one, and blah, blah, blah. So we pick up with Clark, who is at a Chinese restaurant in Gotham City waiting for a source for his column or whatever, and he's boy, seems like they bailed, oh well. And then all of a sudden this gun points at him from the back of his head, and he's just I'm just a blogger, ma'am, you don't need to attack me. Or it says sir. But then we see okay, this person's the source, very hooded and mysterious, can't see anything. But then Clark's just well, I'm just going to use a little x-ray vision, and oh, hey, it's a woman in there. But I don't recognize her. It could be anybody. And then this person lays down a huge stack of files, including the senator who was giving Superman a hard time about having a Fortress of Solitude and all that a couple issues back. And he's just yeah, no, all these people are part of a thing called the 20, which is some sort of urban myth that Clark has heard about but doesn't think exists. So back at Star Labs, there's this giant hive ship that's about to take off, and the other people who haven't been infected yet are shoot it down, we can't risk Hector Hammond getting away and getting out of our grips. So they shoot the ship, it explodes, causing massive damage to Star Labs, and we see it was all just a distraction. The real extraction thing was down in the sewers below, and they call up the queen of the hive and saying oh yeah, we got him, we'll be out your place in 12 minutes or so. And it's sweet. And we see this dangling electrical wire underneath them. So we then go back to Clark, who is on a plane because now that the Daily Planet is not able to fund his excursions, he can't just disappear and reappear all around the world. Despite the fact I feel it should be easier to not have a paper trail at that point, but regardless, he has to actually ride on this plane now. And he's oh, but I'm still doing it not just for that reason, but because I have to be a human. I will never give up on my humanity. He spent a very long time saying that. So as they're making their way through the sewer, a live wire hits the sewer water. It electrifies Hector Hammond, which apparently makes him the most powerful mind in either the world or the universe for just an instant. And he connects with all of the minds in Metropolis and infects them to some extent. And the plane, which is landing at this point, he looks around at all the people around. They're all freaking out. And he's oh, right, I had blocks put in my brain by Orion. This is probably that. I should deal with that. But then he's but I can't just leave the plane. They'll wonder what happened to Clark Kent. So they explicitly say he waited for everyone to onboard the plane, and then he left. Which the art does not say that. The art just shows the plane still landing, and he's just flying as Superman. But regardless, we see Lois Lane runs basically into traffic and is standing there in a Superman pose and just oh, we must stand for something or else we will fall for anything. And she's about to get hit by a bus, and then it says a moment later, and Superman's just saved her. We don't get to see the saving. Superman just already did it. And he's just like, Miss Lane, what was that about? And she's just like, oh, I don't even know how I got here. What's going on? And then he hears Jimmy Olsen crying, saying how alone he is nearby. So he flies over to Jimmy. Turns out Jimmy is living in a penthouse because his parents passed away and left him $1 billion, but he's feeling super lonely and like, oh, ever since, like, I can't relate to anybody else. I'm all alone. And then all of a sudden he snaps out of it and he's like, oh, wait, I'm a billionaire. And then he hears another voice of Perry White. And Perry's like, you want to know who Superman is? It's me. And he like ripped open his shirt. And everyone else in the Daily Planet's like, Perry, please put your shirt back on. And then Superman takes him aside into the broom closet. And he's like, I don't remember any of that. Thanks, Superman. And Superman's like, that's weird. All my friends and companions are acting like different aspects of me. It must be because I had that mental block put in and they deflected towards people I cared about. Well, we won't explore that anymore. So then we go back to Hive where the Queen is waiting for them to arrive. She sees Hector Hammond's giant head pop through the fog and is just like, oh, at last, now we can finally use your head as the weapon that Hive needs and deserves. But it turns out Hector's awake and he's using the Hive grunts to basically make a human throne. And he's like, hi. Heard you were looking for me. What can I do? And that's it. That's the issue. This was rewritten. There's so many just like weird art inconsistencies where like it's like kind of trying to describe what's happening, but at the same time, it's not lining up. Like the fact that Lois is in front of a bus and then it just says something akin to a few moments later. Like, why didn't we see the swooping in? I don't understand why. Like, it's a strangely written book, and the art is not keeping pace with it. So, I don't know. It was a confusing read to begin with. It wasn't great by any measure. So I gotta just give this one like a 5.5. The art's great. It looks good. I like Kenneth Rocafort's art for the most part, but like, when the art and the story have this much of just a basic mismatch of what they're doing, it just fails in basic storytelling. So 5.5 strictly because the art is pretty, and I guess I followed the basic beats of it, but like at every point where it could fall apart, it did, and I can't forgive that.